From the get-go, you've had something special, though it might have been subtle. Some of us have these invisible marks from a young age, traits that hint at a unique calling that's with us throughout the years. It's like the Creator set out a one-of-a-kind path, leaving hints along the way to remind us of the purpose we're meant to fulfill. These signs, often subtle and regular, show that since childhood, you've been set apart for something greater. These signs are evidence that your existence is linked to a spiritual mission, a task that's beyond immediate understanding. Maybe you've experienced moments when you felt a deep connection with the world around you, or an inexplicable certainty that you were not alone. These experiences weren't by chance, they're manifestations of a greater purpose. God's word reminds us of this reality. In Jeremiah 1:5 it says, "Before I made you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I chose you to be a prophet to the nations." Like Jeremiah, many chosen ones already show signs from childhood that set them apart and prepare them for a special destiny. Today, I invite you to think about the traits of your own story, and to recognize the signs that have always been there. Join this journey of self-discovery as we explore the 10 signs that may reveal that from the earliest years of life you were already chosen. Perhaps looking back, you'll realize that the clues were there all along, pointing to the divine purpose reserved for you. First, singularity. Since you were little, you may have felt different from other children. Perhaps you were more introspective, liked to observe things around you. Or maybe you had thoughts and feelings that others didn't seem to share. This sense of being different is like a feeling that you were made for something special, even if you didn't know what that was. For example, while other kids played and socialized easily, you might have preferred quieter moments to reflect or ask deep questions that adults found hard to answer. Maybe you felt like the world around you wasn't quite right. You didn't understand why the world didn't make as much sense to you as it did to others. You might have wondered, why do I feel this way? Why doesn't it seem like I belong completely in this place? While this feeling can sometimes make you feel lonely, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It's actually a sign that you were chosen for something special. This difference isn't a flaw, it's a mark. It's like God left a sign on you, saying, "Hey, I'm here for a reason." Your soul showing that your life has a special meaning. That a kid who feels this way may be one who, even without understanding why, feels a need to care for others, to help or protect someone. For example, you may have felt empathy for an isolated classmate or been sad to see someone suffering, even if no one said anything. This shows a sensitive heart and one prepared for something greater. In Romans 12:2. The Bible tells us to not follow the world's example, but to be changed by the renewal of our minds. This means that being different isn't a problem, but just part of who you are. This feeling of being one of a kind is the first sign that God has something special planned for you. Accepting this can be the first step to understanding the purpose He has placed in your life. Consciousness. Since you were little, you may have the Bible tells us not to conform to the world's standards, but to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. This means that being different is not a problem, but part of who you are. This feeling of being unique is the first clue that God has something special in store for you. Accepting this can be the first step to understanding the purpose He has placed in your life. Since you were little, you may have noticed that you saw the world differently. It seemed like your senses were more alert, picking up on details that others missed. This heightened perception was not something you could fully explain or understand, but it was as if you were tuned into something greater, something beyond what your eyes could see. Perhaps while other children were distracted by games or everyday situations, you noticed emotions in people, gestures, or even subtle changes. I've noticed that you see the world differently. It seems like your senses are more alert, picking up on details that others miss. This heightened perception is something you can't fully explain or understand, but it's like you're tuned into something greater, something beyond what your eyes can see. Maybe while other kids were distracted by games or everyday stuff, you noticed emotions in people, gestures, or even subtle changes in the environment. It's like you had a special sensitivity to perceive things that were less obvious to those around you. This consciousness wasn't just about observing, but also about feeling. You could pick up a different atmosphere in places, or even intuit that something was about to happen, even without concrete proof. For example, you may have memories of moments when you felt a strong connection with nature or with simple situations. But you've got this deep connection with nature or even the simple stuff, like a gentle breeze, the sound of rain, or the silence of the night. It's like the universe is trying to tell you something. These moments aren't just random. They're signs that you've got a special connection with the non-physical. This sensitivity isn't common, so it's a hallmark of a chosen one. It shows you've got the ability to when you've had one of those moments where you just feel something deep down. Like when the wind blows, it's like you feel it more than anyone else. Or when it's raining and you can feel the drops on your skin. Or maybe when you're just sitting there, and you feel this silence that's so loud. Well, that's not just in your head. It's like the universe is trying to tell you something. You're not alone if you're sensitive to things that most people aren't. It's like you're seeing and feeling the world in a way that's totally unique to you. It's like you've been chosen for a special role. There's a saying in Proverbs 20 verse 27 that says, "The human spirit is the lamp of the Lord that searches all the inner parts of a person." It's like God's got you in the palm of His hand, guiding you through all this sensitivity with a path to follow or a sign when something's up. So, if you're starting to feel this heightened awareness, it's like you're taking a step forward in a journey where you're meant to be. Understanding your purpose. It's a tool given by God so that you can fulfill the mission for which you were set apart. Allowing you to see beyond appearances and perceive what truly matters in your journey. Empathy. One of the clearest signs that you were chosen is the ability to deeply feel the emotions of those around you. Since childhood, you may have noticed that you were different from others in this respect. While many ignored or didn't notice, you were able to see what they couldn't. While others ignored or didn't notice what others were feeling, you seemed to pick up on these emotions as if they were your own. This sensitivity was more than just a superficial feeling. It was like your heart opened up to understand and embrace what was happening around you. Maybe you remembered moments when someone was sad or distressed, and even without that person saying anything, you knew they needed comfort. That it was like you could see beyond words, feeling the pain or joy of others. It was as real as if it were your own. This unique empathy is not just a personality trait, but a spiritual gift that prepares you to help, care, and serve. For example, you may have been the child who worried about classmates who were excluded, or who found it difficult to ignore the suffering of others. Perhaps you felt the need to comfort someone, even without knowing exactly what was happening. This extraordinary empathy reflects the love of God. That this deep sense of empathy is a gift that prepares you to help, care for, and serve others. Maybe you were the kid who worried about classmates who were left out, or who couldn't ignore other people's suffering. Maybe you felt the need to comfort someone, even if you didn't know why. This extraordinary empathy reflects the love of God that works in your heart, shaping you to be a source of comfort and hope for others. The word reminds us of the importance of being sensitive to others' needs. In Romans 12 verse 15, it says, "Rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn." This shows that feeling what others feel is a way of reflecting divine love and fulfilling God's purpose in our lives. This extraordinary empathy, present from an early age, is not a weakness. It's a strength, not a weakness. It's a tool that allows you to connect deeply with others, offering support, understanding, and light in difficult times. Recognize this ability as a sign of your calling to serve and to live a greater purpose, helping those in need and reflecting God's love in every act of care. Fourth, premonitions. Many chosen children experience striking and intense dreams, or even premonitions that come true over time, from an early age. These events aren't just random. They're clear signs that something greater is at work in their lives. These dreams, often full of deep meanings, are like messages pointing to their special purpose. Maybe you can remember a dream that seemed more real than others. It may have been so clear that it stayed in your memory for years. Or, maybe you had that feeling that something was. You know when you have a dream that feels so real, like it's right there in your head? Or maybe you've had that feeling before where something seems to be about to happen, and then it actually comes to pass. Those moments, though hard to understand as a kid, are actually your connection to the divine. Like, a chosen child might have dreams that warn them of future situations or visions that bring peace in times of doubt. These experiences are like seeds planted in their soul, getting them ready to recognize and embrace the purpose that God has for them. These moments, although hard to understand as a kid, are actually a connection with the divine. For example, a chosen child might have dreams that warn them of future situations or visions that bring peace in times of doubt. These experiences are like seeds planted in their soul, getting them ready to recognize and embrace the purpose that God has for their life. Often, these dreams come with a sense of comfort or direction, as if they were a reminder that you are not alone on your journey. The Bible talks about how God uses dreams to communicate with us. In Job 33 verse 15 through 16, it says, "In a dream, in a vision of the night when deep sleep falls upon men while they slumber on their beds, then he opens the ears of men and seals their instruction." This passage reinforces that God often chooses dreams are often comforting and give us direction, like a reminder that we're not alone. The Bible talks about how God uses dreams to talk to us. In Job 33 verse 15-16, it says, "In a dream, in a vision of the night when deep sleep falls upon men while they slumber on their beds, then he opens the ears of men and seals their instruction." This shows that God often chooses dreams to guide us and reveal his plan. If you've had these experiences, know that they're more than just coincidences. They're a reflection of your greater purpose. Recognize them as part of your connection with God, who has been preparing you since childhood to fulfill your special purpose. You may have had moments when you seem to be inexplicably protected. Dreams are a way for God to guide us and show us his plan. If you've had these experiences, they're more than just coincidences. They're a part of your connection with God, who's been preparing you since you were young to fulfill your special purpose. Maybe you've had moments when you felt inexplicably protected, like something supernatural intervened to keep you safe in dangerous situations. This feeling that a greater force was taking care of you wasn't just in your head. These moments, however hard to understand at the time, are clear signs of divine protection in your life. Maybe you can remember times when you almost got into an accident or got into a complicated situation that, surprisingly, worked out for the best. Have you ever felt like you had a guardian angel watching over you? Maybe you've had a few close calls, or even felt like something unexpected turned out to be for the best. Well, the Bible says that's actually God's plan for you. It says that when you're going through tough times, God's got your back. You might have even felt like you had an invisible buddy keeping you safe. This protection, which starts when we're kids, is like a sign from God that he's got your back and is helping you out with a special mission. Like, maybe you've had a near miss where you just knew to swerve out of the way. The real risk you were taking. Or maybe someone came into your life at just the right moment to help you, like they were sent by a higher power. These things aren't just random events, they show that your life has a greater meaning and that you're being prepared and protected to fulfill a divine mission. The Bible talks about this special protection in Psalm 91 verse 11. It is written, "He will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." This promise reminds us that God appoints his protection for those who have an important role in his plan. Recognizing this feeling of divine protection is understanding that your journey is not being traveled alone. These moments are reminders that you are part of something greater, that your life is being guided and guarded so that God's purpose. It's like you're part of something bigger, and your life is being guided and protected so that God's plan can be fulfilled. When you accept this, it helps you live with more confidence and gratitude, knowing that even in the toughest times, you've never been alone. Your story is being written with care, and every detail is a sign of the love and protection of God. Since you were young, you might have felt like God was always close, like a loyal friend by your side. This sense of closeness wasn't by it's not just your imagination. It's a clear sign of God's love in your life. Maybe you remember times when you talked to God like he was right there, listening to you, even if you didn't get answers. Many people who feel close to God have this sense of connection, like it's natural, almost like a friendship. When things get tough, you may have felt God's love and protection more strongly. It's not just in your imagination, or by chance. It's a clear expression of divine love showing up in your life. Maybe you can remember moments when you talked to God in a simple way, like He was right there listening to every word, even without audible answers. Many chosen children have this perception where the connection with God becomes something natural, almost like a friendship. In times of difficulty, you may have experienced a peace that made no sense given the circumstances. Maybe in the midst of a chaotic situation, you felt a sense of tranquility and protection, bringing the assurance that you were not alone. These episodes are signs that God has always been present, guiding and strengthening you from an early age. For example, there may have been times when, even without understanding exactly why, you felt the urge to pray or seek answers from something. These experiences show that you were already in tune with the divine, ready to receive the blessings and guidance that would be part of your journey. This close relationship with God is one of the greatest gifts a chosen one can experience. The Bible reinforces this truth in Psalm 145 verse 18, where we read, "The Lord is near to all who call on Him, to all who call on Him in truth." This passage reminds us that God is not. These experiences show that you were already in tune with the divine, ready to receive the blessings and guidance that would come your way. Having a close relationship with God is one of the best gifts you can get. The Bible tells us in Psalm 145 verse 18 that the Lord is near to all who call on Him with true faith. This means that God is always with those who seek Him with purity of heart. If you had this connection from an early age, it's a sign of the special calling that God has placed in your life. This closeness is rare, but it's a preparation for the unique purpose He has reserved for you. Embrace this relationship with God and let it grow, using it as a foundation to face challenges and fulfill your purpose. It's not often, but when you're young, you might feel like you're connected to God. If you did, it's probably because God has a special plan for you. This connection isn't common, but it's a sign that God has a unique purpose for you. If you have this connection, it can help you face challenges and fulfill your mission. 7th Challenges. Chosen ones often feel different from others. Maybe you felt this way as a child, like you didn't fit in with your friends or family. It might have been painful and lonely, but it also helped shape who you are today. These challenges didn't happen by chance. They were part of your path. Mission for which you were chosen. 7th Challenge. From a young age, the chosen ones tend to face situations that make them feel different. Maybe you noticed even as a child that you didn't fit in completely with your peers or even in your own family. This feeling of not belonging may have been painful and lonely, but at the same time, it was essential to shaping who you are today. These challenges didn't arise by chance. They were part of the preparation process for the greater purpose you were called to fulfill. Often, this feeling of isolation makes you see the world more deeply. While others followed the flow of everyday interactions, you might have questioned things that few considered. This kind of reflection, although uncomfortable, broadened your understanding of life and the people around you. It is in these moments of solitude and introspection that God works in our hearts to develop the inner strength we need to overcome obstacles and understand the complexities of the human condition. For example, you may have been the one who cared more about the feelings of others, while your peers seemed to ignore the suffering of others. Or perhaps you felt that your ideas and thoughts were not fully understood, as if you saw the world differently. This difference was not a flaw, but a mark that you were set apart. It's all part of a bigger plan, a purpose that needs resilience and courage. As the Bible says in Romans 5 verse 3-4, our struggles are a part of the process. We also take pride in our hardships because they make us stronger. These challenges aren't just hurdles, but chances to grow your character and deepen your faith. Keep in mind that to be a beacon of hope, you've got to face turbulent waters first. The difficulties you've faced have prepared you, turning pain into strength and isolation into empathy. This process has molded you and empowered you to be an example of perseverance and faith, inspired by the divine purpose that has always been present in your life. A Noetic fascination. From a young age, you may have shown an unusual interest in stories that to be a beacon of hope, you've got to face some tough waters first. The struggles you've been through have been a sort of preparation, turning pain into strength and loneliness into empathy. This process doesn't just shape you, it also gives you the power to be an example of perseverance and faith, guided by the divine purpose that's always been a part of your life. A new kind of fascination. From a young age, you might have had an unusual interest in stories that went beyond the ordinary. While a lot of kids were into fairy tales or fictional adventures, maybe you liked hearing about courage, faith, and sacrifice. Stories of martyrs, spiritual leaders, or people who faced huge challenges to achieve a greater purpose caught your attention in a special way. This fascination wasn't just a preference, it was a reflection of the unique calling that God placed in your life, preparing you to be they were a beacon of hope in a world often overshadowed by doubt and fear. This early interest in figures of faith may have started with biblical stories. Maybe the courage of David in facing Goliath touched your heart, showing that with faith in God, it's possible to overcome seemingly impossible challenges. Or who knows, the perseverance of Noah, who obeyed God and built the ark despite everyone's skepticism, may have inspired your determination. These stories did. They're not just entertaining, they're inspiring. They show that faith can transform lives and move mountains. Take Joseph, for example. He faced betrayal, injustices, and years of waiting before seeing God's plan fulfilled. His brothers sold him into slavery, but he remained trusting. In the end, he became a leader who saved many from famine. For a child fascinated by these narratives, the story of Joseph it's a reminder that even the tough times have a bigger purpose, something that can really touch your heart. Besides the Bible, you might also be into stories of real people who lived with courage and faith in tough times. You know, like martyrs who refused to give up their beliefs, missionaries who took God's message to far-off places, or reformers who fought for justice. These stories might have sparked your desire to, even when things seem tough, it's important to remember that there's a bigger picture. There are real-life stories of people who faced challenges and still found a way to make a difference. These stories can motivate you to do the same. The Bible talks about this a lot. In Hebrews 12 verse 1, it says, "Since we have so many examples of people who have gone before us, let's get rid of anything that's holding us back and let's keep going with determination on our path." This passage reminds us that the faith stories of others are like beacons, encouraging us to keep going on our own journey. If you identified with these stories when you were younger, it wasn't just a random preference. It was actually a preparation for your calling. God was shaping your heart to be an inspiration, someone who could live with the same courage and dedication that you were fascinated by. These stories weren't just examples. They were reflections of the purpose that God was already revealing in your life. Curiosity, do you remember being that kid who always had questions? The ones that adults didn't always know how to answer. Like, why is life even here? Why does it suck sometimes? Or even, what's the deal with God? That curiosity wasn't just for fun. It was a sign that you had a special bond with the divine, and you were meant to seek out deeper answers. Curiosity. You may have been that kid who always had questions, and you weren't just being a pain in the neck. You wanted to know about life, why it's so hard sometimes, and where God fits into it all. Maybe you even thought about the big questions, like what happens when we die, why bad things happen to good people, or how the world was created. While other kids were happy with simple answers, you wanted more. This search for understanding was like a flame burning inside you, making you want to discover truths that went beyond the obvious. This thirst for spiritual knowledge, you've probably wondered about stuff like what happens after death, why bad things happen to good people, or how the world was created. While other kids were satisfied with simple answers, you wanted more. This search for understanding was like a flame burning inside you, fueling your need to discover truths that went beyond the obvious. This thirst for spiritual knowledge wasn't just natural, it was a sign that God was already planting seeds of purpose in your heart. In the Bible, we find clear examples of people who demonstrated this spiritual curiosity. One of them is the young Samuel, who, from an early age, lived in the temple and served the priest Eli. In 1 Samuel 3 verse 10, we see Samuel hearing the voice of God for the first time, not knowing it wasn't just natural, but a sign that God was already planting the seeds of purpose in your heart. The Bible is full of examples of people who showed this spiritual curiosity. One of them is the young Samuel, who lived in the temple and served the priest Eli from a young age. In 1 Samuel 3 verse 10, we see Samuel hearing the voice of God for the first time, not knowing immediately that it was the Lord speaking to him. He replies, "Speak, for your servant is listening." This shows that even without understanding everything, Samuel was already willing to listen and learn, revealing an open soul connected to the divine. Another example is the young Jesus, who, at the age of 12, was found in the temple discussing with the religious leaders. In Luke 2 verse 46, we see 47 we read that he asked questions and listened attentively, leaving the teachers amazed at his wisdom. Just as Jesus showed an early interest in spiritual matters, the curiosity you felt in childhood is also a reflection of a greater calling. This search for answers may have led you to explore biblical stories, observe people's behavior, or even spend long hours reflecting on the meaning of life. You wanted to understand more than what was visible because deep down you knew there was something greater guiding everything. Perhaps in moments of silence, you have felt a presence or intuition that told you to keep searching. This spiritual and existential curiosity is a gift. It's as if God were preparing you to be someone who, in addition to learning, shares the answers and hope you have found. Proverbs 2:3-5 says that if you ask for insight and cry out for understanding, if you seek her like silver and search for her like hidden treasures, you'll understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of one God. This thirst for wisdom is a powerful tool that propels you on your journey. It not only shapes your faith, but also empowers you to inspire others to seek truths that transform lives. Maybe in childhood, you overcame challenges like the loss of a loved one, financial difficulties, or family problems. Even if those times were painful, they shaped you, preparing you to face even greater situations in the future. This resilience is like spiritual armor that helps you keep going, even when the going gets tough. It's not easy to see the big picture, but the tough times you've been through have actually made you stronger. Every challenge you've overcome has made you more prepared to fulfill your purpose. The resilience you show is a reflection of the divine plan at work in your life. Be grateful for this strength, which often it's like a sign that you're never alone and God has your back, even in the toughest moments. Take this strength and keep moving forward, knowing that every challenge you overcome brings you closer to your destiny. Seeing these signs in your life is just the start of a journey that's always changing. These signs can appear out of the blue. They're a reminder that you're not in this alone, and God's got your back, even during the toughest times. Take this strength and use it to keep moving forward, knowing that every challenge you overcome brings you closer to your destiny as a chosen one. Seeing these signs in your life is just the start of a journey that's always changing. Each new phase of your story brings fresh revelations, challenges, and chances to grow spiritually. Things that seemed small in the past can suddenly feel meaningful as you grow in your relationship with God. That imaginary friend you used to talk to might have been a spiritual guide sent to watch over you. Those times when you escaped tough situations. Those times when you managed to get out of some really tough situations without having a logical explanation for why it happened. Those were actually divine interventions. Being chosen doesn't mean having a life without challenges. Actually, your journey is filled with challenges that make you a stronger person, like how gold is refined by fire to become purer and more valuable. These moments of trial aren't just some kind of punishment. They're actually stages of learning and strengthening. They're preparing you for the bigger purpose God has for you. If you see these signs in your own story, know that it's no coincidence that you're part of a divine plan that's being revealed every day. Share your experience with others who are also discovering what it means to be chosen. Your story can inspire and strengthen those who are still discovering their purpose. Serve to prepare you for your life's purpose. If you recognize these signs in your own story, know that this is no coincidence. You're part of a divine plan that's being revealed every day. Share your experience with others who are also discovering what it means to be chosen. Your story can inspire and strengthen those who are still at the beginning of their journey. Let your light shine brightly, illuminating the path for those around you and reflecting God's love in every step you take. This light is not just for you, but for everyone who seeks to find their purpose. Comment below if you recognize these signs in your childhood. Let's share, learn, and grow together on this blessed journey. Amen.